very good evening to you and welcome to tonight's edition of Primetime News on TV1, coming to you live from the Newsfirst studios in Colombo. My name is Krishan Devasagai. Let us start off with a look at tonight's headlines. We will take further steps regarding the Iranian sailors based on international law and humanitarian grounds without any bias. A clarification from Sri Lanka's foreign minister in India. Safety of Sri Lankans is guaranteed. An assurance from the Deputy Minister of Defence.
අපේ ස්වෛරීත්වය බහුමික අඛණ්ඩතාවය අපේ ශ්‍රී ලාංකිකයන්ගේ ජන ජීවිතය ආරක්ෂාව සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම අපි තහවුරු කරලා තියෙන්නේ.
Decision reached to maintain a reserve of essential food items amid the situation in the Middle East. Steps taken to ensure uninterrupted supply of essential goods during the upcoming festive season. 2 ships carrying 7,400 metric tons of LP gas to arrive in the island today and tomorrow. Iranian president apologizes for attacking neighboring countries. No deal with Iran except unconditional surrender, USA emphasizes once again. In your top story tonight, the final day of the Raisina dialogue took place in New Delhi today, bringing together global leaders to discuss the most pressing international challenges.
Global leaders and policymakers gathered in New Delhi for the 11th edition of the Raisina Dialogue, India's premier conference on geopolitics and geoeconomics. The 3-day summit, organized by the Observer Research Foundation in partnership with India's Ministry of External Affairs, brought together more than 2,700 participants from over 100 countries, including heads of state, ministers, defense chiefs and strategic experts. Sri Lanka was represented at the summit by Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Employment and Tourism Gita. The third and final day of the dialogue was held in India today, focusing on several key global issues including security, geopolitics and international cooperation. During the summit, Minister Gita was also questioned about the situation involving Iranian naval personnel linked to ships that sought assistance in regional waters.
Are you going to repatriate the Iranian personnel back to Iran, or are you under pressure from the US to hand them over, to encourage them to defect, sir?
Yes. I want to reiterate that unclose, because we are following those international laws. We are taking steps that incident also. We have taken all steps according to the international laws. I think we need not support any part. We took all steps as humanitarian way. Therefore, we will take steps according to the international laws.
I'll take that. Dr. Jaishankar, we too have an Iranian ship docked in Kochi with 183 sailors, and India has, I know, lots of statements have been made and conversations have been had about what's happened and India's support and help. But how do you view this overall event? And I understand that India was not politically or militarily responsible for the safety of the ship, and yet it happened very close to our borders, maritime borders.
Well, I too support UNCLOS and international law. So I don't want you to have any doubt on that score. But having said that, look, here's the situation. You had these ships. And we got a message from the Iranian side that one of the ships, which presumably was closest to us, to our waters at that point of time, wanted to come in to our port. They were reporting that they were having problems. So my recollection is this was on the 28th. And on the 1st, we said, okay, you can come in. It took them a few days to sail in. Then they docked in Kochi. The ship is there. Obviously, the people on the ship, a lot of them were young cadets, that is my understanding. They have disembarked. They are in a nearby facility. So we viewed this, look, this ship or these ships, because there were two others as well. I mean, when they set out and came here, the situation was totally different. They were coming in for a fleet review, and then they got, in a way, caught on the wrong side of events. For us, when this ship wanted to come in, and that too in difficulties, I think it was the humane thing to do. I think we were guided by that principle. And in a sense of the other ships, one obviously had a similar situation in Sri Lanka, and they took the decision which they did, and one unfortunately didn't make it. I think where we really approached it from the point of view of, in a sense, of humanity, of other than whatever the legal issues were, and I think we did the right thing.
Sri Lanka and India have stressed the importance of strengthening regional cooperation in the Indian Ocean, particularly in the areas of maritime security and economic relations. Speaking at a regional forum, Sri Lanka's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Employment and Tourism, Gita said, organizations such as the Indian Ocean Rim Association play a key role in enhancing cooperation among countries in the region.
As far as concern, our relations is very important to maritime security and enhance our economic relations. IORA is an organization. We can boost our relations furthermore. IORA has adopted resolutions and framework in last year. It was very important. We can use those resolutions according to international laws, or we must respect international laws. I think all of you can understand the present situation of the globe. It is a good example to us, the necessity of such type of regional organization and strengthening such type of organization. Therefore, we have to work together using those organizations. Our neighboring country is India. India is doing a great job, and the Indian presidency of IORA organization can play a good role because India has many resources, human resources and material resources also as a neighboring large country.
Meanwhile, India's Minister of External Affairs, Dr. S. Jaishankar, said India has significantly increased its diplomatic engagement with Indian Ocean countries over the past decades. He highlighted several initiatives, including development projects and cooperation programs aimed at strengthening regional partnerships.
There were countries in the Indian Ocean where we had not had a high-level visit for decades. Australia, Sri Lanka, for 2-3 decades, there were no high-level visits. Now, if you see just the diplomatic energy over the last decade, we've done, in a way, much more than perhaps 4 or 5 decades before that. But again, it's not just a visit. You've got to do things on the ground. So what we have done in India in many ways has been a foundation for what we try to do in our relationship with the Indian Ocean. So we have right now, for example, a unique identity card project which we are working on with Sri Lanka. We did a metro, a very successful metro project with Mauritius. We are discussing a specialty hospital with Seychelles. So until we do projects, until we take our experiences out there, until we actually prove to them that their lives are better off by being part of a greater whole, I don't think we can build that kind of, neighborhood spirit or neighborhood watch. And there'll be the good periods when you can plan and do it. There'll be times of stress. I mean, Sri Lanka, for example, went through that, that severe economic crisis. And the fact was finally, the most substantive and the fastest support really came from India. I mean, recently they had this the cyclone, Ditwa. We were there within 24 hours. So the point I'm making is that if we have to build a kind of an Indian Ocean sentiment or spirit or identity, call it what you will, it's not just about broadcasting it or stating it, or it has to be backed up with resources, with work, with commitments, with practical projects, so that people know that you are actually serious about it.
In news from here at home, the deputy ministers in charge of the health and defence portfolios expressed their views today in Kandy with regard to the future of the Iranian sailors who were rescued on humanitarian grounds, as well as the bodies of the deceased sailors following the recent torpedo attack on an Iranian warship.
We brought the bodies to the Gaul harbour. From there, we transported them to the Karapitiya National Hospital, where the remains are currently being kept. We are acting in accordance with international norms and regulations. We have already held discussions with the Iranian government regarding this. They have informed us that they require the bodies. However, since it is practically impossible to transport the remains to Iran at this moment, whether by air, land or sea, we are ensuring the safety of those mortal remains here. We intend to hand them over as soon as they are in a position to receive them. Out of the injured, one person is currently in the intensive care unit, while the others are in the wards. Once they recover, they will be moved to our Navy camps, where the other crew members are currently staying. We plan to house them in those same locations because at present, there is no possibility for them to return to their country through regular travel routes. As a responsible government, we are bound by international conventions and United Nations treaties. Regarding the issue with the ships you mentioned, we stepped forward on humanitarian grounds and prioritized the saving of lives. Following that, we have now managed the affairs of the second ship to a great extent. Through diplomatic level discussions with the relevant parties and countries, we have largely resolved the matter by now. We are a government that handles national security with great responsibility. Up to this point, no issue has arisen regarding national security, nor has any threat been issued. Because we maintain a stance of overall neutrality, we work with all governments. We have fully ensured our sovereignty, territorial integrity and the daily lives and safety of Sri Lankan citizens. As you can see, we have not faced any problems from any side in that regard.
The Sri Lanka Navy has released new footage of the rescue operation of 204 individuals from the Iranian vessel IRINS Bushehr. Navy spokesperson Commander Buddhika Sampath said that all the rescued Iranian sailors are in good health. They are currently being sheltered at the Valisara Navy base, where the Navy continues to provide them with food, water and other humanitarian assistance. After being brought to the Colombo port yesterday morning, the 204 individuals from the IRINS Bushehr were transferred to the Valisara Navy base following medical examinations. This follows a situation involving the IRIS Dana, which was reportedly hit by a US torpedo earlier this week. The bodies of those who perished were brought ashore to Sri Lanka and medical treatment was provided to the survivors. Following a request for humanitarian aid from the IRINS Bushehr, the Sri Lankan government took a decision on the day before yesterday to conduct a rescue operation. Accordingly, except for a limited crew required to sail the vessel to the Trincomalee port, the rest of the sailors were rescued and transported to the Valisara Navy base yesterday. Meanwhile, Reuters reported that the United States is currently pressurizing the Sri Lankan government not to repatriate the rescued personnel from the IRINS Bushehr and IRIS Dana back to Iran. Meanwhile, the Iranian warship IRIS Lavan has arrived at the port of Kochi in India with the approval of the Indian authorities due to a technical problem identified on board the ship. Indian media reported that the ship was allowed to dock at the Kochi port based on a request made by Iranian authorities. The IRIS Lavan ship was another escort ship that had travelled to India as part of a larger fleet for a naval exercise and an international naval exhibition. The 183 crew members on the IRIS Lavan ship have now been taken to safety camps in Kochi under the Indian Navy. It is said that the ship requested permission to enter India on the same day that Israel and the United States jointly attacked Iran on the 28th of February and assassinated Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Foreign media reported that the IRIS Lavan ship arrived at the Kochi port in India on the 1st of March after India gave its approval for the request. Now, Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca expressed his views today on whether the Sri Lankan government's actions regarding the Iranian sailors were correct.
Now we know how Saleh operated, who influenced him and in which areas he worked. When I was army commander after the war ended, I assigned him an important intelligence position, but he did not report directly to me. At that time, retired General Henda Vitarana under Gotabaya supervised him. We had our own intelligence units handling special operations, including the Tamil Selvam assassination, as well as other security challenges in Colombo. I believe a team working under Gotabaya was responsible for some of these actions. Saleh and Henda Vitarana were part of this. Gotabaya overseeing all intelligence operations in Colombo and forming these groups. Additionally, post-war intelligence arrangements in the East, including recruiting and managing personnel like Zaharan, were initiated after the war, with Zaharan handling some tasks and Saleh overseeing army intelligence operations. A few other army officers were also involved, as I have previously mentioned in Parliament. There has never been a system in this country to arrest fathers simply because their sons become terrorists. There is no such system anywhere in the world. After Prabhakaran was killed, we allowed his parents to come out and live in Velvathurai. There is no such practice. If Ibrahim, as an ordinary citizen, has committed an offence, he must face the consequences.
Leader of the Democratic Left Front, Vasudeva Nanayakkara, held a media briefing today to express his views on the Sri Lankan government's handling of the issue involving Iranian sailors.
Regarding the political situation in Sri Lanka, this government has fulfilled its duties correctly in accordance with international conventions. That is what we must do according to our agreements. The other aspect is our duty towards our neighbour, India. When this ship that participated in an Indian international event in Visakhapatnam was returning home, providing some level of security to that vessel when it was within our maritime boundary is a responsibility and a duty we should perform on behalf of India.
India when අපි කරන අපේ යුතුයකම.
සර් මේ දැන් ඉරානයේ නාවිකයන් බේරාගත් නිසා ශ්‍රී ලංකාවට ලෝක වටේම මේ ප්‍රශංසා ලැබෙනවා.
Yes, I believe the entire world recognizes that we have fulfilled our justice in accordance with international obligations. The President's decisions regarding this will surely earn us praise. Furthermore, all nations and people who value justice will likely stand with us in solidarity. Our international policy is neutrality. However, neutrality does not mean sitting on the fence. This has been reiterated since the Bandung Conference. Neutrality has been the policy brought forward by the non-aligned movement from the very beginning. We do not belong to any power blocks. In times of conflict, we do not encourage those involved, nor do we oppose them. But we must fulfill our duty. We must stand with justice. Standing with justice and neutrality go hand in hand.
The Ministry of Environment confirmed that investigations are underway regarding several oil spills being reported along the Narigama coast in Hikkadua. In addition to the oil slicks, several items including barrels that had washed ashore recently were also found. Newsfirst correspondent stated that oil slicks were visible along the coast from Hikkadua to Sinigama.
වෙරළ ආසන්නයේ තිබිච්ච කහපාට ජලස්තරයක් වගේ තෙල් ස්තරයක් වගේ ස්වරූපයක් තිබුණ සීනිගම වෙරළ තීරයේ ආසන්නය ඒ සම්බන්ධව මම විශේෂයෙන්ම නාර ආයතනයට දැනුම් දුන්නා කඩිනමින් මේ සම්බන්ධ පරීක්ෂණයක් කළා ඒ සම්බන්ධව වාර්තාවක් ලබා දෙන්න කියලා.
Meanwhile, the Department of Coast Conservation, the Marine Environmental Protection Authority and volunteers are working together to remove the oil that had reached the Hikkadua coastline. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said that Iran will not attack neighboring countries unless it is attacked first. He further emphasized the necessity of apologizing to neighboring nations in the Gulf affected by the current onslaught of strikes.
What is the background behind the Iranian president apologizing to neighboring states? President Masoud Pezeshkian stated that he felt it necessary to apologize to neighboring countries that were hit by strikes, asserting that Iran has no intention of invading its neighbors. Pezeshkian called for regional cooperation to establish peace and tranquility. It is reported that the Iranian president has instructed its military not to attack neighboring countries unless they are attacked first. He added, quote, "Those using this moment to consider attacking Iran should not become puppets of imperialism. Supporting Iran or the United States of America is not the path to honor and freedom," unquote. Since the 28th of February, Iran has over the course of several days launched missiles and drone strikes targeting US bases located in Bahrain, Kuwait, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and a number of other Gulf nations. Was there a fresh strike on the Dubai International Airport today? Shortly after the Iranian president's statement, global attention was shifted to a fresh Iranian drone strike targeting the Dubai International Airport. Runway sustained minor damage. No serious injuries to passengers or crew have been confirmed. Operations were briefly suspended for security reasons, but the UAE's national airline, Emirates, has since partially resumed flights. Attacks on Tehran and Isfahan. The Israel Defense Force announced a massive wave of strikes on Tehran and Isfahan. As of this afternoon, 8 deaths have been reported and approximately 80 houses were damaged. Reuters reports that Mehrabad Airport in Iran has been severely damaged. Israel reportedly utilized nearly 80 fighter jets for this operation. What was Iran's response? The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps launched its 23rd wave of missile strikes towards Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. The IRGC carried out a drone strike on the Malta-flagged oil tanker Prima sailing across the Strait of Hormuz. This is the 4th ship attacked in this zone within the past week. Iran maintains that vessels linked to enemy nations will not be permitted to pass through the strait. What was Trump's response? President Trump stated that the US Navy will protect shipping vessels if necessary. The US position remains unchanged. There will be no negotiations with Iran without an unconditional surrender. The US aims to help a new leadership rebuild Iran into a stronger economic power after the conflict. Following talks with 4 major defense contractors, the US is set to quadruple its production of advanced weaponry. What is the cost and duration of the attacks against Iran? Al Jazeera reported that US spent $3.7 billion in the first 100 hours, according to the Center for Strategic and International Studies. The cost for daily operations exceeds $891 million. How long are the strikes against Iran expected to continue? US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth estimates that operations against Iran could last for another 8 weeks. Is Russia silent? Russian President Vladimir Putin expressed his condolences to President Pezeshkian regarding the deaths resulting from the conflict, including the Iranian Supreme Leader. Putin emphasized that the armed conflict must stop immediately and implementation of a diplomatic resolution is the need of the hour.
News First with the people.
අයිවන් සතුටින් ඉන්නේ වයරින් කරලා වයරින් කිරුවේ ඉස්ලොන් පොලිකොන් යොදලා.
For your safety and the protection of the wires used in networking, electricity and AC wiring, Eslon Polycon cable trunking, suitable for white walls, prevents spread of fire, double lock technology. Ask for Eslon Polycon by name.
Welcome back to the news. And in another headline-making story this evening, the Food Policy and Security Committee has decided to maintain a reserve of essential food items in response to the ongoing war situation in the Middle East.
The Food Policy and Security Committee met under the chairmanship of Ministers Vasantha Samarasinghe and K.D. Lalkantha. Several decisions were taken during the meeting to manage the potential impact on the supply of Sri Lanka's essential goods supply and food security due to the current situation in the Middle East. Minister of Trade, Commerce, Food Security and Cooperative Development Vasantha Samarasinghe addressed the media regarding these measures.
A large volume of our imports come through countries like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Canada and Australia. We receive stocks from the Middle East as well, such as dried sprats. They were imported from Iran. Importers are already working to source dried sprats from Thailand as an alternative to Iran. Furthermore, we decided yesterday to provide the necessary facilities to import adequate stocks of grain.
Efforts are also underway to mitigate impacts on exports.
We are facing several challenges with exports as well. Fish exports reached $40 million in January. Discussions are underway with the Ministry of Fisheries as well as airlines, including Sri Lankan Airlines, to reach agreements in this regard.
What is the situation of LP gas supply in the country? Litrogas confirmed that a vessel carrying 3,700 metric tons of LP gas is scheduled to reach the island tonight. Litrogas chairman Channa Gunawardena says LP gas of 8,000 metric tons of this month's requirement have already been brought in. An additional 30,000 metric tons are stored in the Maldives. The chairman assured that the conflict in the Middle East has not disrupted the supply yet and gas prices will not increase this month. 100,000 LP gas cylinders are released daily, with uninterrupted supply to industries and hotels. He urged the public not to engage in panic buying. Additionally, a Lavs gas ship carrying 3,700 metric tons of LP gas is expected tomorrow to arrive in the country. CEO Nalinda Kurukula Surya stated that distribution is currently ongoing from a previous shipment that arrived on the 20th. What is the current situation of the energy and coal supply of the country?
We have secured fuel supplies until the end of April. The gas supplier has agreed on a price to supply gas for the entire year, and the coal supplier has similarly agreed to supply the total requirement for this year. These coal stocks will be utilized for electricity generation. We are working based on prior agreements. However, if any disruptions occur, we will move to alternatives. Accordingly, we are currently discussing whether we need to increase the volume of certain orders as a precaution.
Meanwhile, the Ministry of Energy has officially announced that there will be no power cuts imposed at least until the end of April, citing sufficient stocks of furnace oil which is required for the continuous electricity generation are currently available.
Addressing recent concerns, the ministry confirmed that operations at the Norachole power plant are proceeding as scheduled. Out of the 36 coal shipments originally ordered for the plant, 22 have already been successfully unloaded, and the supplier has provided firm assurances that the remaining shipments will be delivered without any interruptions. The ministry also took the opportunity to address misleading reports circulating on social media, which suggest an inevitable power crisis by April. The ministry urges the general public to remain calm and rely on official government communications rather than being misled by fabricated news stories.
In more local news, the Balapitiya High Court sentenced a person to death for the rape and murder of a 12-year-old girl 18 years after the crime was committed.
Balapitiya High Court Judge Ruchira Balivath sentenced an individual to death for the abuse and murder of a 12-year-old schoolgirl on the 4th of December 2008 in Sudwala Thalgaskoda within the Ambalangoda Police Division. The case was filed against the defendant under 2 charges. For the first charge of abuse, a fine of 25,000 rupees was imposed. In addition, he was sentenced to 5 years of mandatory rigorous imprisonment, while the death penalty was imposed for the charge of murder. A student who was studying in grade 6 at a girls' school in Ambalangoda in 2008 was abducted while returning home from her school sports meet. She was abducted in the Sudwala Thalgaskoda and taken to a cinnamon plantation where she was abused and murdered. Her body was thrown into a well.
Speaking at an event held in Anuradhapura today, Prime Minister Dr. Harani Amarasuriya stated that the current government's objective is to create an enlightened society rooted in values.
The opening of the new fully equipped multi-purpose auditorium complex at the Bhiksu University of Sri Lanka in Anuradhapura, along with the felicitation ceremony for the new Chief of Anuradhapura Atamasthana, was held today.
The policy of our government is to strengthen free education and ensure that all citizens are provided with a proper education and to make education a fundamental right. We want to protect the value of our education on the international stage and move forward. Our aim is to create a society deeply rooted in good values. To achieve this, there should be a good coordination between religious institutions and universities. I believe that the Bhiksu University of Sri Lanka will lead the way in promoting national unity, coexistence and building a society rooted in good values.
අයිවන් සතුටින් ඉන්නේ වයරින් කරලා වයරින් කිරුවේ එස්ලොන් පොලිකොන් යොදලා.
For your safety and the protection of the wires used in networking, electricity and AC wiring, S-Lawn Polygon cable trunking, suitable for white walls, prevent spread of fire, double lock technology. Ask for S-Lawn Polygon by name.
Welcome back. This weekend marks the crucial pre-finale round of Sri Lanka's Got Talent, where the 12 top contestants battle for the top 6 places in the coveted grand finale.
The pre-finale round of Sri Lanka's #1 reality television program, Sri Lanka's Got Talent, will take place this weekend as the most decisive stage before the grand final. In this pre-finale round, 12 outstanding contestants who have remained unbeaten throughout the competition will compete for a spot in the final round. From them, only 6 contestants will qualify for next weekend's grand finale. The pre-finale round will consist of 2 exciting competitions held today and tomorrow. In each competition, 6 contestants will compete head-to-head, but only 3 contestants from each round will qualify for the grand finale. Out of these, 2 winners will be selected by the panel of judges at the end of the show, while the responsibility of selecting the final winner will be given to the Sri Lankan audience. Featuring spectacular international standard performances never seen before on Sri Lankan reality television, the grand finale of Sri Lanka's Got Talent Season 3 will be broadcast live on the 14th of March 2026.
A series of lectures on the Bhagavad Gita titled Know Yourself and conducted by Sunandaji, offering participants insights into self-knowledge and practical guidance for daily living, was held in Colombo today.
A series of lectures on the Bhagavad Gita titled Know Yourself is being conducted in Colombo, offering participants insights into self-knowledge and practical guidance for daily living. The program, conducted by Sunandaji, explores the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita and highlights how self-understanding can bring clarity of thought, steadiness of mind and purpose in action. The 4-day lecture series began today and will continue until the 10th of March at the Buddhist Cultural Center. Each day is set to commence with devotional songs starting at 6 p.m. with the session itself scheduled from 6:30 p.m. to 7:45 p.m. The program aims to help attendees explore the timeless wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita and apply its teachings meaningfully in modern life.
Colombo's National Hospital hosted Sri Lanka's first TMS training session, introducing advanced non-invasive brain stimulation therapy for mental health, with machines being donated by Sri Lankan doctors residing in North America.
A transcranial magnetic stimulation training session was conducted yesterday at the National Hospital of Sri Lanka. The session was led by Dr. Tariq Pereira, focusing on introducing and training local medical professionals on the safe use of TMS technology. This training marks a major step in Sri Lanka's mental health care, coinciding with the donation of 2 advanced TMS machines by the Sri Lanka Medical Association of North America. One machine has been installed at the National Hospital in Colombo, making TMS available locally for the first time as a non-invasive treatment for conditions such as treatment-resistant depression, OCD, migraines and other neuropsychiatric disorders. Dr. Dasanti Akmeemana, president of the Sri Lanka Medical Association of Psychiatrists, said the donation represents a major advancement for modern psychiatric treatment in the country, offering patients a safe and effective therapy with minimal side effects.
The alumni of the Institute of Aesthetic Studies 90 and 91 batch came together in Colombo today and hosted an exhibition to mark 35 years of artistic achievement.
The 1991 batch of the Institute of Aesthetic Studies, Department of Painting and Sculpture reunited today for a group exhibition titled In Between and Beyond 1990 to 2026 Plus at the GDA Pereira Gallery in Horton Place, Colombo. The exhibition showcased works across painting, sculpture and mixed media, reflecting memory, transformation and continuity over 35 years. The exhibition underscored the enduring bonds formed during the artists' formative years and their ongoing dialogue with contemporary art practices.
Sri Lanka's first ever Lanka Collector-Con, a dedicated collectibles and card show for Pokemon fans, is currently being held in Colombo.
Sri Lanka's first ever Lanka Collector-Con, a dedicated collectibles and card show for all Pokemon lovers, is being held for the first time in Sri Lanka from the 7th to the 8th of March. The event brings together collectors, hobbyists and enthusiasts from across the island, creating a unique platform to showcase and trade a wide range of collectibles. Fans have the opportunity to connect, exchange items and explore their Pokemon collectibles. The 2-day event features displays of trading cards, memorabilia, marking an exciting event for Sri Lanka's Pokemon collector community.
In sports, we start off with school cricket. The cycle parade of St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia, organised in line with the 147th edition of the intercollegiate cricket encounter between St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia and Royal College, Colombo, was held in Colombo today.
The annual Battle of the Blues big match encounter between Royal College, Colombo and St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia will be held once again this year. This will be the 147th edition of the historic encounter. In conjunction with the upcoming match, a cycle parade organised by St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia was held today. The parade started near St. Thomas's Preparatory School, Kollupitia, and travelled along Bambalapitia, Dehiwala and Gaul Road before concluding in front of St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia. The Battle of the Blues encounter, which is ranked as the second oldest annual cricket match in the world, will be held on the 12th, 13th and 14th of March at the Sinhalese Sports Club grounds in Colombo. The Maharaja Media Network is the official media partner of the event.
From cricket to motorsports, Sri Lanka's Yevan David created history today by becoming the first Sri Lankan to compete in an international FIA Formula 3 championship race. The young driver is making his debut this weekend at the iconic Albert Park Grand Prix circuit in Melbourne, Australia.
To the left of screen is Enzo Deligny, to the right is Bruno Delpino, and we are go for season 8 of FIA Formula 3 as they charge down towards the first corner. Noah Stromstead.
In a landmark moment for Sri Lankan sport, Yevan David made his highly anticipated debut in the 2026 FIA Formula 3 Championship this weekend at the iconic Albert Park Grand Prix circuit in Melbourne, becoming the first driver from Sri Lanka to compete at this level of international single-seater racing. The 18-year-old racing prodigy, widely known as the Sri Lankan Lion on the track, took to the Albert Park grid for his first sprint race alongside the world's future motorsport stars. This debut marks a monumental step not only in his career, but also in the history of Sri Lankan motorsport. Yevan David's journey to this point has been nothing short of remarkable. He began racing at a young age, first experiencing the thrill of motorsport on the Bandaragama karting track in Sri Lanka, before achieving success throughout Asia. From dominating Asian karting championships to progressing through junior open wheel categories, Yevan steadily climbed the motorsport ladder. After competing in Formula 4 and demonstrating strong pace, he transitioned to the Euroformula Open Championship, where he secured several race victories and finished as the 2025 runner-up, establishing himself as one of the most exciting talents on the international motorsport scene. The FIA Formula 3 Championship is renowned for its fierce competition and as a proving ground for future Formula 1 talent. Yevan's inclusion on the grid and his debut race at Albert Park signify not only a personal achievement but also a historic breakthrough for Sri Lankan motorsport, inspiring a new generation of racers back home.
And on that note, we wrap up tonight's edition of Primetime News. Thank you for watching. Take care, good night, and God bless you.